Hey, fourth grade, it's Mrs. Johnson here. I hope you're ready to learn again today. All right, so this unit in reading, we're talking about kind of interpreting words or figuring out what words mean when we're reading. We don't always have a dictionary ready to go, and so we have to kind of use what we have around us to figure out what different words mean. So you have this vocab strategy chart in your notebook, but let's just review some of the strategies. One way you can figure out what words mean is by looking at the prefixes, so letters that come before a word that change or add to its meaning. For example, the prefix un means not, non means not, and re means back or again. So for example, my shoelaces are untied, so you can see the prefix un is before tied. Un means not, so not tied. You can also use context clues. Sentences are words that come before or after a word that give you a clue to its meaning. I'm going to say this is probably the number one method you're going to have to learn how to use when reading, because usually authors will give you context clues or clues around the word to tell you what it means. So for example, my room is chaotic. It is messy because I have not cleaned it in weeks. So chaotic and messy. So it's saying my room is chaotic, it is messy. So the author says that it's not only chaotic, it's messy. So you can probably say that chaotic means messy or kind of crazy. Contrasting statements, so things that are different. Statements or sentences that tell you the opposite meaning of the word. Now this is where you have to be careful, because when it's telling you the opposite meaning, you have to think to yourself, okay, so I know this word is the opposite of what it's telling me. So the water is now tainted, but it used to be clean enough to drink. So it's saying the water used to be clean enough to drink, but now it's tainted, meaning now it's not clean anymore. And one of the last ones is appositives. The author defines the vocab word or phrase within the sentence. I injured or hurt my knee at the soccer game. So injured or hurt. So these two words are synonyms. They mean the same thing. Injured means hurt. As you get older, you will see less and less appositives and more context clues. So get ready for those. All right, now we are going to read this article. So make sure you have this. It's in the reading skill folder at the back. And we're going to answer some of the questions as we work. Okay. Reef Building. Wildlife workers are using some New York City subway cars to build a reef in the Atlantic Ocean off Delaware and New Jersey. Now notice reef is bolded, so that's probably an important word. Reef is also in the title, so I know that reef is going to be an important word. I'm going to put a little box around it and then put an arrow to the definition. So you can build using subway cars to build a reef in the Atlantic Ocean off Delaware and New Jersey. A reef is, so now it's going to tell me what a reef is. A reef is an underwater ridge that provides shelter and food for sea creatures. So underwater ridge, I'm going to put a box around it, that provides shelter and food for sea creatures. I know shelter means like a house, and sea creatures. Well, what kind of things need a house and food to live? Animals, right? So creatures is just another word for animals. Good. It's an interesting picture. It looks like a scuba diver is building something with blocks. Cool. The reef will be a good place for sea plants to grow. Those plants will attract small fish, which will eat the plants. The small fish will lure larger fish that feed on them. People who enjoy diving and fishing will also be able to use the area. So it looks like it's a good place for the plants to grow, and these plants will attract small fish. Well, what does the word attract mean? Well, I can kind of figure it out, because if there's sea plants there and then small fish come, this means that plants will bring in small fish. So if there's plants there, small fish will come to eat them, which will eat the plants. Look at that, it says right there. The small fish will lure larger fish that feed on them. Well, just like the plants bring in small fish, the small fish will lure or bring in large fish that feed on them. So it's kind of like you have the plants. That's going to bring in the small fish. The small fish are going to bring in the big fish. Cool. Making an artificial reef. I'm not 100% sure what artificial means, so I'm going to put a little question mark there, and hopefully I figure it out after reading this, and then if I don't, I'll have to look it up. 2 sunken tugboats, tons of concrete, and some military tanks are also being used to build the reef. Tugboats just must be a kind of boat, so I'll underline boat. Because this reef is being built out of human-made objects, it is known as an artificial reef. Hey, it just told me. So, because this reef is being built out of human-made objects, it is known as an artificial reef. So, artificial means it's built out of human-made stuff instead of nature-made. So, artificial, human-made. Got it. Natural reefs are made of rocks, sand, plants, and sea creatures. There are no natural reefs in the United States north of Florida, but artificial, and that means human-made, reefs have been built in coastal areas from Massachusetts to South Carolina. Items such as sinks, cars, and tires have been used to build those reefs. What a cool thing. All right, now we're going to answer some questions. So what I want you to do is pause the video here, answer these questions, and then press play and see if you got these questions right. That helps you learn. If you got them wrong, you're learning, so don't worry about it. All right, go ahead and press pause now. All right, hopefully you've gotten all the questions done. We're going to go through them. So the main idea of this passage is, I remember main idea equals what the article was mostly about. So I have to think to myself, it was all about reef building. Okay, let's see. Natural reefs are made from rocks, sand, and plants. Wildlife workers are building artificial reefs. Fish are attracted to reefs. There are no natural reefs on the East Coast north of Florida. Now, I'm pretty sure this was mostly about artificial reefs. It wasn't about how natural reefs are made or about how fish are attracted to reefs. It did talk about fish and how they're attracted to reefs in this little paragraph, but that was only one small chunk. And it only really briefly mentioned how there are no natural reefs. So this is my best option. Wildlife workers are building artificial reefs, because this is what the article was mostly about. The author writes, the small fish will lure larger fish that feed on them. Lure means attract, find, eat, scare away. Now, we kind of went through this already, and we said those plants will attract small fish, which will eat the plants. The small fish will lure larger fish that feed on them. We said that attract and lure both mean bring in. So they kind of mean the same thing. So I'm going to say that's my best option. Attract. I could put this word in for lure too, just to see if it makes sense. The small fish will attract larger fish that feed on them. That makes sense. Which of the following sentences from the passage helps you to understand the meaning of artificial reef? Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to look. Oh, I circled it right here. We'll see if that one's somewhere in there. But artificial reefs had been built in coastal areas from Massachusetts to South Carolina. Because this reef is being built out of human-made objects, it is known as an artificial reef. Ding, ding, ding. That's the one where we circled it, remember? So that's going to be the best sentence. Or that I don't even need to look at the other ones, because I know that's the sentence that helped us figure that out. Which of the following sentences is a fact? Now, a fact is something that can be proven. It's not what someone thinks. Thinks is an opinion. All right, so natural reefs are better for sea life than artificial reefs. Well, you can't really prove that. That's kind of what someone thinks. Workers should try to fix the old subways so people can use them instead of making a reef. That's definitely an opinion, because who cares? Reefs in South Carolina are being built from sinks and cars. Can we go and prove that? Let's see, coastal areas for Massachusetts. Items such as sinks, cars, and tires have been used. Yeah, we can prove that, so that's probably our best bet so far. Let's just double check. Artificial reefs hurt fish. So these human-made reefs hurt fish. Did it talk about that in our article at all? No, it didn't. So we're going to definitely cross that one out. And I say C is a much better answer than A. Good. The author writes that reefs are being made to provide shelter for fish. What does shelter mean? Well, we said right here, shelter is like a house. Shelter is something that keeps you safe. So shelter is like a house. Something to keep you safe. Awesome. So just a reminder, sometimes you're going to read things, actually a lot of the time you're going to read things, and there's going to be words in it that you might not know. So you have to use context clues or clues around the words, or you might have to use prefixes or contrasting statements or positives to figure out words. Sometimes you're going to have to look up words in the dictionary or the thesaurus. And I like looking up words in the thesaurus a little bit better. Thesaurus. Just because dictionary definitions can be super confusing. Thesaurus, I can usually find a word or two that I know what those words mean, and so then I can sub it in for one of the words I'm looking up. All right, fourth graders, hopefully you did well on this. Make sure to hand this into the reading basket and get out there and keep learning.